What's up, everybody? This video is a little different from the last video I did. The topic of this is going to be the straight by the book spiritualist versus the intuitive, the intuitives, um, spiritualists. Now, I personally, okay, like I've said in my past videos, I'm a life path 11. So I have really good intuition. Like everything is based in my life around intuition. And then you have those people who are straight by the book spiritualists. Now, I have a real problem with that because there are always there's always a methodology or theory or steps to becoming a good spiritualist. And they base this all on their success in terms of their fame and their fortune, which seems kind of, I don't know, counterintuitive in a sense. I mean, to put it in better words, I mean, they'll set up steps or they'll set up theories in which they base all their spiritual practices on. So, for instance, they'll be like, if you want to be a good spiritualist, first you must go through this step, then this step, then this step. I mean, how does that? You make spirituality in those terms as like anyone can attain it if they just follow these three easy steps. It's like back in the day when there were a lot of infomercials on television, they would say, "Oh, you want to be rich? You want to be famous? Well, you just need these three easy steps, and all of a sudden you'll become rich and famous." And people bought into that. And they bought all the information, and a lot of them just ended up with snake oil in the end. I don't think that's how it works. In fact, I think you have to have a high intuition to be able to channel any type of entity, spirit, demon, whatever it is. You have to be an open vessel unto the spiritual realm to be connected to that. I don't think you can read a book and then do everything the book says, and then all of a sudden overnight you're like the best magician, practitioner, satanist, you know Christian, pagan. Or I just think you're being fed snake oil in those terms. I have seen a lot of people on like YouTube and on TV saying that stuff, like, if you want to be a psychic medium, then you have to follow my three easy steps in attaining psychological or spiritual awakening. And I don't think you can do that by some easy steps that someone tells you. Like, I cannot stand those spiritualists that are like, okay, I've got a book out and it's going to tell you everything about this particular satanic god, like, I don't know, Asmodeus. And it seems like, where did you get this information, first off? Like, does Asmodi give a fuck about you in the spiritual realm? Does he give a fuck that you're rich and famous? Probably not. My family, a lot of people in my family, they never followed the three easy steps of spirituality to attain their riches and wealth. I mean, I have some very well to do and established people in my family, and they never had to read a book on, I don't know, opening your third eye to become rich and famous. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I think a lot of it comes down to just your fate and who you are and what type of character you are, in terms of who you lure in and how much of an appeal you have. It's more about star power and charisma. You know, I learned that very young in high school. I would say that I was in high school a very popular person. Um, I I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. I was voted in as the senior class treasurer of my school. So I had a lot of people who supported me, and liked who I was. But in the end, I didn't see that as something fulfilling and something that did me well. I became, in a way, obsessed with this idea of fame. Like having a cult following by people. And I was so focused on that I felt like I was giving away more of myself and not receiving anything in return. And in fact, it hurt me more than it benefited me because I was always feeling like I had to give, and that people were dependent on me all the time. And when it came down to, when I rejected all that and said, no more, I don't want any more of that lifestyle. I feel like I need to become in touch with myself and become more identified with who I am. A lot of those people went away. They didn't get what they wanted from me anymore, and I was fine with that. So it's like this concept of you can't base all of your fame and fortune on these gods that you say are your path to success. It's like that's not how I see it. We're all fucking different. We all have different, experiences in life. And I cannot follow a 5-step program of Satanism to attain what goals I want. I don't think Lucifer is down there somewhere thinking, I'm going to put all this information into James Kirby's head and he's going to write it down and he's going to say how, to become a good Luciferian. I don't see that happening. I think that's a lot of snake oil, like I said. And so I wonder, like, where is the intuitive factor in spirituality anymore? Because, it just seems futile to base your whole spirituality on the books and sayings of people who consider themselves the gods of whatever. It's like, for every rise there is a fall, and when that fall happens, all you can do is accept, go off with your tail between your legs and accept your humiliation when that time comes. Because you know I mean not everybody's going to stay on top. Even Madonna at some point realized that she wasn't going to be relevant anymore. you know that in the year 2020 was not like the year 1987 or 88. She wasn't the same material girl that she was then, and now she's just kind of like an image of a bygone era. And that happens to a lot of celebrity spiritualists, you know, even Jim Baker, he had his great rise to spirituality, and everyone thought, oh, he's the God, he's the channel to God in the 1980s. And then he fell from grace. And now what is he doing? He's trying to pander, you know, preppers type of stuff. So I think spirituality is more of a matter of coming down to the intuitive. Intuition is very vital in spirituality. You need to build that. It's not something that can be taught to you. It's something that is innate with you. And through the intuition, you build your own psychic abilities. That's where the psychic abilities lies, is in the intuition of a person. To be able to see, feel, hear, smell, touch, taste, all these things around you that trigger, you know, a sense of future events, of past events, of all that. If you look at, say, for instance, I always resort back to Amy Allen and Teresa Caputo. I don't think they sat there when they were like, I don't know, 20 years old, 18, 15 years old, saying, okay, I'm going to learn everything I need to know about how to become a good psychic. I don't think they did that. They started off really young by using their intuitive ability. Excuse me, intuitive abilities. They were they were talking about stuff like, when I was 4 years old, you know, I saw dead people standing around me, you know, while I was going to bed and I couldn't sleep at night. Those are the type of experiences I've had, you know, when I was like really young, sleeping in my bed, and I saw like ghosts at my bed, you know, like trying to communicate with me, you know, and shit like that scared me. I mean, when I lived, I've always been drawn to haunted houses. For some reason, there's something about haunted houses that I just, I don't know. I just, my body tells me to go into them, you know? And a lot of it has to deal with my intuition, because I think I have a very high intuition. And when I smoke weed, it just, it gets higher, you know? It's like my intuition just hits the roof, you know, hits the sky. And I start seeing things, and it's not like I'm hallucinating, like, you know, bad dragons coming out of the, no, I see like dead people who have lived in these houses, who've experienced loss. I start feeling what they felt. I start seeing what they see. I start becoming who they are in those places. uh, I lived in some haunted houses, and it affected me both psychologically, spiritually, and physically. I mean, you become part of the history of that place. You know, when I was in Korea, Korea has a long history. It has a much longer history than America. And while I was in Korea, Korea is a very spiritual place too. So I was always saying, you know, there's something going on, you know, like there are ghosts here, you know. And my mom was like, one time I was sleeping in at my uncle's house, and and they put me in this room, and I looked out the window, and I'm like, all of this land was being excavated. And I'm like, what is going on there, Mom? And she's like, she said, that's like your ancestors right there. They're digging up the graves and the old villages of where your ancestors were. And that whole night, I couldn't really sleep well because I was having these images of these people coming. Like, I couldn't sleep well at all in Korea because I constantly had this like influx and experience these supernatural experiences happening to me there. It was like I was I was a psychic medium on overload. It was just becoming too much for me because everywhere you went, there was an old village or an old place, or the land was used at an old time, and the history with underneath the ground, even spoke to me. So I always felt possessed while I was there. And that's what intuition is like you can walk into a haunted house and know exactly what happened and see the lives that were lived and who were there. And you should be able to do that on the spiritual plane. You should have that spiritual intuition that guides you. You can't glean that from a book only. Even, I guess, in Faustus, it's been a long time since I've read that, where he didn't have to go buy a book to call up Satan, to sell his soul to Satan. you know he had he knew that he had to beat the Bible. He knew that he had to call upon Satan in a different manner. So I have a real problem with these step by step spiritualists. Follow my easy 5-step program and you'll become the greatest Satanist or spiritualist or psychic ever. I don't think it works like that. It's something you are born with, or it's Maybelline. I always refer back to that because one time I went to a tattoo artist and he did my tattoo. He did this tattoo. His friend did this tattoo. And when he did this, I was like, man, where did you learn to become a great tattoo artist? Like, how long did you know to become a good tattoo artist and drawing and painting and all that? And he's like, it's something you're born with. And that really resonated with me. His name was Travis Thornhill. And when he said that, he's a great tattoo artist. He did my koi fish. His friend did this, but the koi fish is just impeccable. It's just pure art. I mean, this is like real art that he did. And he said it's something you're born with. It's like asking Pablo Picasso, where did you learn how to paint or draw realistic pictures at the age of 4? I mean, serious. It's something you're born with, you know? So I think you have to be born with a high level of intuition to be spiritually ascended. Being a life path 11 is a good start, you know? And if you don't have that intuitive nature already set within you, then there's no way you can be a good spiritualist. You can't be a great psychic medium if you don't have those abilities, those innate abilities. Just like Travis Thornhill saying, you have to be born to be an artist. You can't just be an artist. Anybody can learn the basics, but when it comes down to the pros, are the ones who are born with the ability. So, anyways, Manji, and you guys have a good night.